We are in London at the moment. The Euro gap year has officially kicked off, I think, Haim.
And this year's gap year, both on TV and on radio, bigger and better than last year. And that means, from our perspective here at the radio show, we're having to branch out and we're having to commission other people to bring Australians the news that we don't have the time or the resources to gather.
Well, there's a huge gap at the moment in the market for newspapers. News of the World's been shut down.
And we wanted something even more scandalous.
Yeah, exactly.
We have commissioned Cackling Jack, who presses the buttons from the lair, here with us on the show, to during the week go out, put his press hound hat on, dig around a bit, find out, get a few leads, get a couple of exclusives, get some dirt, and publish a newspaper that we own, but he's the editor of, for back, that we can put online and people in Australia can access it. It's called the Jack Post. The first edition is hot off the press this morning. It's just landed on our desks. Firstly, welcome to the show, Cackling Jack, the editor.
Thank you. Editor, writer, photographer.
All right, mate.
Well, I'm not sure if you did get this photo of Tom Jones.
First thing we have to say is, look, points that it's colour. It's a colour paper.
Colour paper, that's good.
But just to explain it to people, and people can go to the website and see it, there's only one page of this newspaper.
So this is the front page. I thought this week, because you didn't really give me much direction, you just said go out and make a paper.
Well, you're the editor, so, we're just the owners. We're the fat cats.
But I think if you go back through time, whether it's, the Daily Telegraph, The Age, Courier Mail, they always started with one page.
One page, one story, and a press photo.
And so, people were getting a little bit ripped off for their $1.10 just to get one page.
Well, this is free.
Let me just pick one story from the paper. It happens to be the only story. Headlined, Tom Jones looks different now. And there's a picture of Tom Jones taken 2012?
Yeah. This is recent. You're right, Andy, I didn't take that photo. I got that from Google.
It would have been an amazing get for his first edition to have Tom Jones in person doing a photo.
So, of all the news floating... Remember, you're allowed to do more than one story. Of all the news floating around London, you decided, as editor-in-chief, this was the big one.
Well, actually, Tom Jones was my first story, and it was originally going to be an odd spot or something of the news, but it turned out being the biggest story.
Turned out being the whole front page and the only story. It's also the sports, the horoscope, it's everything. What else was in the running to make the paper?
Well, actually, I did edit some out because...
It wasn't as good as the Tom Jones looks different now story.
But I wanted to save them for next week's edition.
Just in case you didn't get a story.
No newspaper files a story for next week. That's the whole idea of the news. It's happening now. It's new.
Well, won't
that be old?
I have page 2 here. No, it's sort of like the Tom Jones one. It's a bit like that. You could read the Tom Jones.
It's a keeper. What's the other story? You have to tell us now, mate. You've got to do a new paper every week.
And this is going to be story. This is going to probably be the front page of story of next week.
You can't just write all your front pages in 1 week.
The second, spoiler alert, next week's paper may have the headline, A Diamond Jubilee.
This is the start of that article. I was watching Millionaire Hot Seat one afternoon in Australia before we left for London, and the question was something like, this is the Queen's 60th year as Queen. What colour Jubilee is it? They worded it better than that, but you get the gist. The answers were diamond, ruby, and I forgot the rest. Maybe gold or silver or emerald. Those kinds of rare stones and stuff. Or metals. So I assume you go...
So the article goes on to say that the answer is Diamond Jubilee. And they're really hyped about it here in London. Like, you couldn't miss that. Where that was a $50,000 question on Millionaire in Australia, that would be $100 here because people know.
Everyone knows. Jack, as the owner of the paper, if I had to pick between the Tom Jones looks different now story and a story on the Diamond Jubilee, which is probably global news, a bit of me feels the Diamond Jubilee maybe is a bigger story.
Sure. As much as Tom Jones does look different to when he was younger.
Because I could argue that everyone looks different now.
But have you guys seen the ads for, because he's on The Voice at the moment, the British version of The Voice, and I didn't know who he was at the start.
Do you think it's more of a scoop? So maybe everyone knew about the Jubilee?
Oh, the Jubilee, it depends if it's more of a tabloid kind of paper or if it's your real facts and stuff.
Do you think the Tom Jones story would you classify that as an exclusive?
I just don't think people are reading about that back at home.
There is an argument for that, but also, is there? I mean, this is the tough job you face as a newspaper editor. Do you think that the editor of the Australian, like, say someone comes from me and goes, "Listen, mate, Iran has nuclear weapons and everyone's writing about it." Do you think he goes, "Yeah, but everyone's writing about that. Let's put a story in about, where Big Ted from Play School is now, because I don't think anyone's writing about that today." So you've got a challenge, don't you?
All right. So you want me to put something a bit more serious on next week's edition?
It blew me away that, it was an interesting article. He does look different now. I believe you describe him as a kind of a tanned Obi-Wan Kenobi during the article.
I don't know. I feel that it is different. I mean, I like.
Well, do I have permission to put it on the website at least as the first edition?
The Jack Post goes up now.
Look, there's no arguing it. It's already printed. I mean, we can't change it now. It's
HamishAndy.com. You can check out the Jack Post. We look forward to the next instalment next week.
I mean, we'll get some letters maybe. Get a bit of reader feedback. Yes. Maybe they like the Tom Jones kind of stories.
Sure.
Maybe they will shape the direction of this paper. It does look different now. It's a great story.
It's HamishAndy.com, everybody. Cackling Jack. You can put your microphone over on
Hello.
as well. He is sitting with us in London, and it's time to review the Jack Post.
Yeah, this one fresh off the press. Hey, we just printed it now.
Just printed it out.
Should be warm.
Lukewarm off the press.
For people who don't know, the Jack Post is Cackling Jack's newspaper. He does London news for Australia. You'll be able to get it, the second edition, at HamishAndy.com.
The reason we invented this, Jack, was we're doing things. We're not always in London. We're out filming around Europe for the TV show. So we thought, look, to give people the full London experience, especially heading into the Olympics, and we've got the Queen's 60th anniversary of being the Queen this weekend, the Diamond Jubilee. Everything's, London, though, the music, the people, the sportsmen, the politicians, the celebs. It's a bloody celeb powerhouse here. We thought we've got to get someone covering these things. And you took up the mantle last week. You printed the first edition. We had a little bit of feedback.
Sure. Well, last week was only one article.
One front page article, the whole paper.
Which was Tom Jones looks different now.
Sure. The feedback was, I think people said that he did.
He certainly did, because he was older.
The feedback is positive. Now,
which brings me to article number 2 in World News.
We've skipped ahead. Second page of today's paper, and good to see there's actually 3 pages and 3 stories.
3 stories. Although one of them is the second story that you guys glimpsed at last week, which actually wasn't part of the paper, which is the Diamond Jubilee story.
Yeah.
So that was written last week, but only published today.
The funny thing, Jack, is because we've seen other papers, and not that we're cheating on you, but we've seen other papers here in London. The Diamond Jubilee and the story about the Queen's 60th anniversary being the monarch doesn't often appear on the back page of a lot of the stories. In fact, people are quite excited about it. It's a lot of the papers have it as the front page.
You're thinking of people in London, and they're definitely excited about it because it's happening here. This is for people in Australia who it might take a little bit of a backseat for them. So page 3.
Well, let me just read out the 2 articles then that have beaten the Queen's Jubilee. World News is Drew Carey looks different now.
Sure. So that was sent in via Twitter after the Tom Jones looks different story.
Yeah.
Is this what we can expect from the paper? Is it celebrities that look different now?
You've got a correspondent now.
Well, he's not official, but he did send that. And
Sam Garling sent it to Twitter, and you've basically taken his story.
But Jack, 80% of the article is you talking about how the paper's not just going to be about celebrities that look different now.
Yeah, don't. This is just a coincidence. Don't expect it to be. There's not going to be a celebrity per week who looks different. But Drew Carey did look different, so that's why I put it.
Well, he looks older.
It brings us to the front page news. This is the story that bumped the Jubilee off. The headline is "Pointless Penny."
Sure.
Half the page is taken up by a close-up shot of the penny, the English penny, the 1 pence, the 1 penny piece, and the front page is really a vicious slamming that the fact that the penny is still in use. Is this topical news as it happens?
Well, no. Again, that's one that you could read at any time and it will be relevant, but you have to read it sooner or later.
Well, it does it, and this is my favourite bit of the article. This is one of the positive notes.
And he makes a lot of good points, so I point out.
Oh, yeah, it's really, really harsh on the penny. Harsh, but
you can't buy anything for a penny.
It starts with 1 a penny, 2 a penny, but for me, 1 a penny is a penny too many.
Yeah, I was really happy with that.
That's good. And that's your shortest paragraph for the whole paper. You've capped it there. You start again. You're obviously wrapped with your opening line.
Can we work towards improving this with a few.
Okay, so here's my thing. But the first thing is you've started with editorial. Your very first page is an editorial piece. Okay, it's like the editor's come on and he's slamming pennies on the front page. It seems like you're using the paper as your personal mouthpiece rather than reflecting the views of what the public wants to see. I would love to see on the front page a little bit more of, maybe an unbiased piece.
Yep. And I'd also, for next week, an unbiased piece that's capturing something that happened that week.
Yeah, something topical.
Wow, so I can't write it this afternoon.
You're going to have to do it closer to time. The other thing I'm going to put a ban on is Google Images. Yeah. I want you to start taking it.
For the rest of the trip, or just the next...
This is like running a newspaper is. Do you think in it the bloody Australian or something, they're going, oh, what? No, Google Images. You've got a camera, go and take some pictures. Secondly, I want to see more than one story per page, okay?
Sure, all right. Well, it's hard. It's the other tricky thing. It takes up half my time writing it, then half my time formatting it. It's really hard to format a newspaper.
Mate, we're the owners. You're the editor. We got you as the editor because you said you could do a paper.
Go to HamishAndy.com to get the complete Jack post with all 3 articles. For next week, Jack, you've got to work on those things.
Hamish and Andy.
Euro gap year in London at the moment. As we mentioned, the TV show starts in a couple of weeks. We're doing it out of a pub.
We are, Ando.
A disused pub. We're putting it back to normal.
We're printing her up.
If you are travelling through London, you can go to HamishAndy.com and request tickets to come and sit, have a pint, have a watch.
We are going to offer you the same deal we offered the Queen.
Ooh.
Oh, okay, we're not. We're going to offer you one free drink.
One free drink.
We offered her unlimited 4 per hour.
Yeah, exactly. Basic wine and spirits. Not
exchangeable not you can't get the deal if you're any other monarch. But you can come and get the Prince and Princess deal, which is 1 drink on the house, basic spirits, wine, etc.
If you cannot make it to London, which is fair enough, we're going to have pub warming drinks. We think it's going to be finished, the pub's going to be finished by next Thursday night, 7:30 Australian time. So jump on the web, go to HamishAndy.com. We'll do a live stream of us having the first few beers with you guys. Hopefully a bit of a pub warming, a few questions and a few little things we've got going.
The chance that the Queen could come on is definitely there.
Yeah.
She has our letter. Yeah. She has our offer.
And as Kylie Minogue left... We
yelled out to Kylie. Yeah, we forgot to tell you guys this. We said to Kylie, hey, you're meeting the Queen on the weekend. Yeah. Just remind her about our offer for the pub. We're 1 degree of separation away from the Queen. We know she's got a busy weekend this weekend, but she's got a total recovery week next week. Yeah. Next Thursday night, 7:30 on the internet. That's when the drinks will be. Yeah. Hopefully she pops by. Yeah. It won't even be hair of the dog by that stage. She'll be completely recovered from the Jubilee, and you'll see the Queen online, maybe.
The Jack Post for people who want to get all the London news designed for Australians. They can see the Jack Post. Cackling Jack, turn your microphone on.
This week's edition actually already on the website if you want to go and have a sneak
People
peek.
Can go read the Jack Post. Must read stuff.
Got to say, it's London news for Australia. Cackling Jack puts it together all by himself. You'll believe that when you read it. And I have to say, Ando, this week for me, it's outstanding. The work rate has gone through the roof. It's
4 pages?
4 pages long as opposed to the 1-page first edition.
We should put it there, A4 pages.
A4 pages.
That would be,
what is that, font 16? But it's still very good. Yeah. And you've put a picture of yourself. That's not usual for a newspaper editor. Put a picture of yourself on the front page and the back page.
Yeah. Because you guys gave me the instruction to not Google so many pictures and use my, unlicensed photos.
Yeah.
And I've realised now that the 2 photos that I've used...
No, you've interpreted that as us telling you to use holiday snaps. What we meant was go and get the news and photograph the news.
Because I'm in both of the photos that I've...
You've photographed your life, but you're passing it off as news. The last...
Because very, very rarely is the cameraman of, say, Channel 9 News in the shot.
Posing in the photo, yeah.
It's more just capturing...
How'd you go covering the election? Oh, pretty good, mate. I got some shots of me reading the paper. No, we would have preferred you to go to Parliament House. Look, we're not going to harp on about it. Be the judge. Go to HamishAndy.com. I will say this. The final page of the paper, again, is just the whole story is about how now you're using your own photos. The story starts with, this story isn't about much, and a paragraph or 2 later it ends with, this isn't really news. Yes. So you definitely start with the strong stuff up front of the paper. Yeah. Not a lot of papers finish at the admission, although maybe they should, of this isn't really news. I would like to see that appear more in papers.
One final point, just before we quickly go to a song here. Jack, did you make the Sudoku yourself.
I actually attempted to make one, but it's almost harder to make a Sudoku than it is to complete one.
That's why we gave you this assignment, Jack. Discover how difficult it is to put a paper together.
That's Googled. Okay, so we can't.
And I assume
any puzzles either.
I assume the picture of the penny that appears on page 3 is a retraction for last week's story. Slamming the penny is also Googled.
That's Googled.
All right. Okay. It fills me with pleasure, Andy, when we do this segment because you and I were off around Europe each week filming stuff for Gap here. Huge episode 2 coming up next Thursday night, 8 p.m. Channel 9. Thanks to everyone that did watch last night in Australia. But because we're off around Europe doing these things, we don't get to be in London. And if our hands and arms and fingers aren't in London, how can we have our finger on the pulse?
Exactly.
We can't. And luckily, we're able to leave Cackling Jack, who pushes the buttons for us here on the radio show in the lair. We're able to leave him in London to just get scoops for us to understand what's going on, to have a finger on the pulse. In the Olympic City, Andy.
I know.
It's the most exciting place, they say, in the world to be. We keep popping out for these trips.
Come back. I just need to get my hands on the Jack Post.
Wanna look
haven't seen the paper today
we
yet.
Said, Jack, you got 6 days where you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Could you put together a newspaper for us? He said it is well within my skill set. I would love to be the editor-in-chief of a newspaper. We've had 3 editions. Each is better than the last. I can't wait to see today's paper. I haven't actually seen a copy yet. Here, I assume, to present edition number 4, Jack Post.
Well, slow down a little bit. Let's just do a quick recap of what we've seen so far. 3 weeks from the lair. 3 editions of the Jack Post.
3 stunning editions. And they each
HamishAndy.com.
They each got better, didn't they? Because week 1... there was room for improvement. Yeah. There was only one story. It was the front page. And
it was about Tom Jones.
It was
looking different.
The headline was Tom Jones looks different now. We demanded more news than that. And Jack, you delivered. Last week you even had Sudoku that you just stole from the internet.
Sure. 4 pages of a newspaper last week.
Yeah. Including the retraction on your slamming article in edition 2 of the penny.
Yes.
You hated the penny. And then last week we all got to learn a little bit more about the penny. And you slightly retracted the newspaper's very anti-penny stance.
It's all there at HamishAndAndy.com.
Okay, let's not drive people to old news.
Because the thing is,
people would be using those online
it's not
articles.
old. That's going to be on the internet forever.
Yeah, but they'll be using those online articles to wrap fish and chips, mate.
Yeah, if we had the editor-in-chief of the Herald Sun on, Daily Telly, the Australian...
Courier Mail.
You name it. You get them on the phone right now, and I highly doubt they would be asking us to pat them on the back for last Friday's episode, last Friday's edition. Yeah. No, they would be telling us about what's in the weekend paper.
Jack, where is it?
Sure. Can I ask you, have any of those papers ever missed an edition?
No.
Not one day.
No,
in their
mate.
history.
They're the newspaper. Have you ever gone to the milk bar or some of the supermarket and gone, can I have the newspaper? And they go, we sold out. Or there wasn't one today. There was
you
no
reckon
news.
the history...
No, I probably more likely in the early days. When
I can tell you this, certainly not a weekly newspaper that's only spitting out 1 or 2 A4 pages a week.
All right.
They wouldn't miss a whole week.
This is what's happened. As you say, you guys have been off around Europe filming stuff. So those first 3 editions came out unsupervised. Yeah. So,
but no, they didn't, because you're the editor-in-chief.
Yeah, sure.
We're just the owners. We're the fat cats.
Yeah, exactly.
We're the corporate side of things. So we just said to you, make a newspaper, and it's on your head.
Something that's happened this week at the Jack Post, and all the employees agree that we should take this thing online, and more online than it is, because the print is online. But what other websites are doing back in Australia and around the world is delivering. Their journalists are delivering online videos.
Okay,
so they're doing their
as
news.
well as a newspaper,
as a supplement. I wouldn't say it's their forte.
Sure, this week's edition of the Jack Post is going to be strictly on an online video.
Oh, great! Show us. Where's the video? This is awesome.
Can you show me the script for the video, which I assume is just the newspaper article?
Yeah. To be recorded after the show, hasn't been recorded, and hasn't been written in a script form, but has been written in dot points, which. And then I'll sort of ad-lib
You've been typing away over there for the last hour, panicked.
This is
sweat coming from your brow.
This is, you're doing your homework at recess. This is, I mean, you will never get this from and I was about to call you a professional newspaper this week. I thought by edition 4, we can start calling this a professional newspaper.
Forget it.
I've never in the history of newspapers heard someone come to the public and say, this week's edition of the paper is an IOU, essentially. What are the dot points that people can look forward to, assuming we even allow the newspaper to take this step?
Well, the ones I've watched on the internet of journalists presenting their online videos have been about TV. Mm-hmm. So mine are actually all about British TV shows. Some are ones that we don't have, and some are the same ones. Like they have Deal or No Deal, but it's different. So I'll chat about that, but I don't really want to give it away now because I'm going to record it after the show.
Can I ask though? Why couldn't have this been done yesterday so we could actually get the content for this show?
Well, because I want to branch out. This is branching out. This is going into new areas.
We would have loved to see the branch, though, rather than the tree just telling us about this exciting new branch that's going to happen. I would have really loved to see the branch already. Andy, can I just have a word with you quickly?
Yeah, sure.
As owners of this alleged newspaper... Yeah. This is not a newspaper anymore. No. This is one guy talking about Deal or No Deal.
Yeah, it's multi-platform.
It's not. It's changed platforms because you're not doing a newspaper anymore.
Oh, we'll go back to print as well.
Well, can we have a newspaper, please?
It's Hamish and Andy driving you home. The Jack Post, London News for Australia. The 5th edition is out. It's at hamishandy.com, plus many other things.
Ninth edition.
9th edition.
Sorry, the 5th good one.
Well, now that is high. Look, Jack, you run the paper yourself. We gave you.
Hang on, are you calling this when you didn't do one, Jack, because of the video? Did you call that an edition?
Sorry, this is the 8th print edition, the 9th edition.
So you are jacking up the numbers.
Okay.
Well, I did a video blog one week, video news.
But that's not a newspaper. We hired you to do a newspaper. We specifically said to you, you've got to do a newspaper and get photos and
You don't see the Daily Telegraph just putting up a video and going, it's the newspaper.
Oh, it's our 1 millionth edition.
Well, I don't read it every day, so I don't know.
Okay, well, let's not bicker too much about what edition number it is since we're still in single figures. And it is a weekly newspaper.
Sure.
And people would know traditionally from those that, do only maybe read the paper once a week, the Weekend Australian or something. A lot of effort goes into that. There's a lot of pages. It's a 4-page paper today.
Yeah.
Fluctuates a little bit.
I actually cut out, I usually have the games to finish it off, like the games and crosswords, but I cut it out because and people didn't like it last week.
Oh,
so
well,
it would have been 5, but I cut out the games. So that's actually 4 pages.
It was an email, specifically an email about one of the word searches saying it was way too easy because there was no diagonals.
Yeah, I used a word search generator on the internet, so I just had to type in words like Hamish and Andy, and then it built it into the word search. And it was terrible. It didn't have diagonals. I don't think it even had up and downs. I think it just had back and forth.
Yeah, it was.
So it's just like if you.
So for all those people going onto the internet to see the paper, hey, we'll save you the effort. If we cut out the middleman, you can go straight to word searches.
If you can read left to right, then you can do the word search.
In fact, the whole paper is a word search because we've just organised words one after the other. So the front of the paper, just to give people a bit of a teaser, is you complaining about the fact that because we're not the rights holder to the Olympic Games, you are squealing black and blue and yellow and red and green about the fact that you cannot display the Olympic rings in the paper.
Yep.
And there is a picture of what appears to be the rings with a big censored bar going across it.
I couldn't tell.
With you saying that you wish you could have shown the logo, but you can't, and you very kindly say you don't want to bring Andy and I into disrepute and have a lawsuit levelled at us.
Well, I don't know what the laws are, but the last thing I want is for the website to come under scrutiny because I've put a big picture of the Olympic rings up there.
And then you don't hear this from an editor very often, and I'm quoting directly from the paper here. I don't want a lawsuit affecting the newspaper, although it wouldn't really worry me too much. If the newspaper folded, I would enjoy having my Thursday afternoons back. Words of an editor who's looking for a change of job.
Cut to page 2, Ham.
The whole page is just the Olympic logo with the headline, I changed my mind, here's the logo we're going to print with this thing. Yeah, so it gives you an idea of the renegade flavour of the Jack Post.
Yeah, I felt like such a mummy's boy, not like obeying the rules. So you strip it off the internet if you want, but I did what I thought was right. But let's put the
This has quickly turned into this protest paper. Most of your front pages are protests at what you're not allowed to do in the paper. Wasn't last week's headline, "This is not free media"? Or was that the one before?
You guys don't read it. Yeah, that was like issue 4 or something. something.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, mate. I haven't collected them all.
Okay.
Oh, they're all up there online at hamishandandy.com if you want to go back and read them.
My issue, Jack, with this week and many other weeks, is you describe what you're thinking about.
It's more of a stream of consciousness than
what
news.
your decision-making process is with regards. For the rings, for instance, it'd be much more of a statement if you printed them without the phrase, I've changed my mind, here's the logo we're going to print with this. That sounds like dialogue the editor has.
For what's meant to be very much an objective piece of news, it is written very much in the first person.
Wow. I do it. The reason it's like that is because I start with the front page, work to the back. So I started without...
Oh, God. I hope the Wall Street Times is listening to this and all these great newspaper tips they can pick up on how to put together a newspaper. Oh, you must go to the website. There's an 80% chance that Jack's seen the guy who was in Bridesmaids.
Yeah, you were with me, so you can back that up.
I didn't put it in a paper.
It's Pants Off Friday, Hamish and Andy.